here's your news for January 23rd, 2020. We are starting off today with some news from the late Rocky Johnson, as the WWE Hall of Famer has been laid to rest. Though the world has mourned the passing of the Soul Man, the funeral did have some drama, according to superstar Billy Graham and Devin Hannibal Nicholson. The pair are claiming that during the service, Vince McMahon and Pat Patterson were disrespectful to the late Johnson, which caused people to get upset at them, and in a now-deleted Facebook post, Graham claims that Patterson described the former tag champion with some very unkind language. He said, out of nowhere, Patterson goes into this rant and called Rocky Johnson, laying dead in the casket right below him, a motherfucker, and started this vulgar rant about how worthless Rocky was, and a bunch of guys had to drag Patterson off the church platform and sit him down. Patterson, who just turned 81, must be losing his mind literally. Only in pro wrestling, folks. Very sad to hear about this, and I actually feel a bit ill over this bizarre behavior. Nicholson said everything that he's heard so far on his YouTube channel, claiming, "I've asked around some other people that were there. I won't mention their names. Billy Graham said that Vince and Pat were very rude on the podium. This other person who I spoke to said he wasn't really going to defend what Vince did. Pat apparently said goddamn a few times in the church, and he said the word shit. The exact speech of Pat's that Billy Graham alleged Pat was escorted off the stage. Now I guess we'll find out more as more people come out that were at the funeral. From the people I spoke to, they said that there was some drama. There was frustration that I guess the preacher spoke for more than an hour and was very negative towards professional wrestling. So Pat and Vince's attitudes on the stage may have had to do with the preacher who, this is not a joke, but apparently some people were saying he acting like wrestling was fake and more of a joke. Also, the funeral was supposed to take place at a much smaller place in front of only about 100 friends and close family members, but it was moved to a massive church and there was a lot of people there. We'll have to see if anyone was recording the speeches of Vince McMahon and Pat Patterson that apparently ruffled some feathers, but the sermon going long and the pastor's attitude to pro wrestling probably didn't help the congregation. In a second video by Hannibal, the indie star had a letter from Harry Smith, who was too busy at the time to talk, but could confirm what had happened. He said lots of people could confirm this because lots of people are asking him what happened. He said, "I think Vince and Pat were really strange, or they were drunk, or they were a bit of both probably. Pat's microphone got cut off because he was taking so long at the funeral. Pat's ending line was, 'Last night I was drunk and I was drinking water or what I thought was in the sink, and then the toilet seat fell on my head.' Vince said, 'Rocky Johnson was a great wrestler, but the greatest thing he ever did was marry Ada, and Ada had some kids.' Then he walked out of the building. Vince strutted on and off the stage like he was doing a promo. He looked like he really shrunk too. I assume he means in size." Harry goes on to say, "Vince and Pat are completely out to lunch. I thought they were drunk, but I spoke to Pat and maybe he's just going senile." He's not the only one I've heard that said Pat is going senile. He said, "I don't think Pat's memory is all that good." This certainly isn't a good look for Patterson or McMahon, and though Billy Graham is known to be a vocal critic of WWE, it seems he's being accurate on this occasion. We've got some news from WWE Women's Tag Team Champion Asuka now, as the Empress of Tomorrow was at the Fashion Show Mall in Las Vegas around the time of the shooting that left 3 people injured. On Twitter, Asuka let her fans know that she had just escaped from the incident, as police report that 3 juveniles got into an argument, though when it looked like a fight was going to break out, one pulled out a gun and fired into the crowd. A witness at the scene told the media that she saw 2 people with gunshot wounds, and one of the victims was an elderly man, and though there's no word on any arrests, local reports are saying that the mall is on lockdown. As Asuka is from a country with one of the lowest gun crime records in the world, this is probably the first and hopefully last time that she will have been in a situation like this. With that in mind, it's great to see that the Empress is fine, and for now, there doesn't appear to be any fatal casualties from this awful incident. On to some lighter news now, and Kofi Kingston was the guest on this week's edition of The Bump. And before his incredible WrestleMania 35 storyline and 2019 run as WWE Champion, the New Day star claimed that he was best known for his remarkable Royal Rumble spots. Therefore, it makes sense that Kofi would announce himself for this Sunday's 30-man Rumble match, and he'll be bringing Big E along too. This brings the number of male entrants to 24, or 25 if you're including R-Truth in the situation, and the bump also discussed the Women's Royal Rumble, as 5 superstars have confirmed their place in the match: Charlotte Flair, Alexa Bliss, Nikki Cross, Sarah Logan, and Natalya. Though only 5 women have announced themselves for the Rumble match, one superstar fans could expect to see is Naomi, who last appeared on WWE TV against Sarah Logan in a July 2019 edition of Main Event. According to sources speaking to PW Insider, the former women's champion will be in Houston this Sunday for the pay-per-view, and given that she's rumored to be returning to SmackDown soon, her return could come as part of the Women's Royal Rumble match. Naomi's absence from WWE in July matched up with the Usos' break from TV, which was the same month as Jimmy Uso's DUI arrest. The former SmackDown Women's Champion hasn't been completely gone, however, as she has appeared on Total Divas during this time period, and the Usos recently returned to SmackDown, helping Roman Reigns fend off the trio of King Corbin, Dolph Ziggler, and Robert Roode. Speaking of the Rumble, one shocking name fans could see enter the men's contest is Booker T, who's been teasing on social media that he could be appearing on the show. Online, the 2-time Hall of Famer has said he's in shape in case he gets the call to participate in the men's Rumble match. For what it's worth, WWE recently applied for a trademark for Harlem Heat, so we'll have to see how things go for Booker, especially with the Rumble happening in his hometown. From WWE to AEW now, as 3 matches have been announced for next week's AEW Dynamite. On the show, the Inner Circle, represented by Chris Jericho, Santana, and Ortiz, fresh from their victory over the Jurassic Express, will take on Darby Allin and Private Party, while the Young Bucks will take on the Butcher and the Blade. In singles action, Cody Rhodes will face Kip Sabian, and fans will also hear from the #1 contender to the AEW World title, Jon Moxley, who defeated Pac to earn the spot in the main event of this week's Dynamite. Following his huge win on Dynamite, Moxley had a stare-down with Chris Jericho, who was on commentary, and the match has been made official for next month's AEW Revolution. Though there will be plenty of big matches for Dynamite next week, WWE NXT will also have a stacked show, as the Broserweights will face the grizzled young veterans in the finals of the 2020 Dusty Classic. On this week's show, Zach Gibson and James Drake got the upset victory over the Undisputed Era, while Pete Dunne and Matt Riddle defeated Imperium's Fabian Archer and Marcel Barthel to round out the finals. A match that'll feature 4 of the top stars from NXT, next week's show will be must-see, as we crown the next Dusty Rhodes Classic champions. More news from NXT now, as CM Punk could have picked anyone to win the WWE Royal Rumble, but has decided to go with Keith Lee. An interesting pick, given that Lee hasn't been announced for the match. The Limitless superstar saw what Punk said about him on backstage and said that should he ever get to meet the straight-edge superstar, he'll have to share his gratitude. Following his incredible appearance at Survivor Series, Lee has become a favorite of many people, leaving WWE the choice whether to find a spot for him on the main roster or leave Lee in a major spot on NXT. Whatever the company choose, expect CM Punk and millions of fans to be paying close attention to what he does in the ring. We're looking ahead to WrestleMania now, as it looks like the 36th show under the name has confirmed its first celebrity. On his YouTube channel, Gabriel "Fluffy" Iglesias is scheduled for the WrestleMania weekend in Tampa, Florida, and is also scheduled for both WrestleMania 36 and Monday Night Raw. Another sign that those dates are for WWE is that those dates aren't listed on his website for Comedy Tour, implying that the WWE has booked him for these days, and though a Hall of Fame induction would seem more likely than a stand-up appearance at Mania, anything is possible with WWE. Fans may know that Iglesias is a longtime WWE fan and friend to many current and former superstars, and fans will have been able to catch him this week on Chris Jericho's cruise around the Bahamas. From one possible future Hall of Famer to a woman who more than earned her spot in that group, as Trish Stratus will soon be adding another award to her list of accolades. As confirmed on her website, the Canadian legend will be inducted into the George Tragos Lou Thez Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame, and a statement on her site read, "She is the first female to receive the organization's highest award. Past recipients of this prestigious honor, named after Lou Thez, a 15-time world champion, include Edge, Booker T, Jim Ross, J.J. Dillon, and most recently, Thunderbolt Patterson." Stratus became the first female to receive Cauliflower Alley Club's Iron Mike Award in 2016, and as she continues to find herself in trailblazing roles, she is overwhelmed to be recognized by the National Wrestling Hall of Fame Dan Gable Museum. As a pioneer of women's wrestling and 7-time WWE Women's Champion, Stratus has definitely earned this award, and the ceremony will take place on July 23rd through to the 25th in Waterloo, Iowa at the National Wrestling Hall of Fame Dan Gable Museum. We are taking a break from WWE now, as one wrestler who knows how to make an impact both in and out of the company is Kenta, formerly known as Hideo Itami. The New Japan star has made quite a splash in 2020 already following his Wrestle Kingdom appearance, and now looks to have a phenomenal run with the promotion, which starts with his pursuit of the double champion Tetsuya Naito. Though Kenta has his eyes set on Naito, there is quite a few stars who have been calling out the former NXT superstar in hopes of getting a match, and one such name is Enzo Amore, who competed with the Japanese star in their WWE days, though Kenta isn't entertaining the idea of a rematch against the Certified G. Kenta will have his hands full with Naito and many other stars after him, as the Japanese star hopes to have a career renaissance outside of WWE, where he had an underwhelming time. The fact that Kenta doesn't want a match won't stop Amore from poking the bear, as well as antagonizing the entire wrestling community, as the former Cruiserweight champion knows he is considered deeply unpopular in the business for a variety of reasons. Since his WWE departure though, Amore has proven he doesn't care about what people have to say about him, as all he wants is to succeed and prove his doubters wrong, and a match against the master of the GTS could do just that. Back to WWE now, and though Daniel Bryan is a beloved star in 2020, it wasn't too long ago that he was despised by the fans. Around this time last year, Bryan was in the peak of his run as the Planet's champion, ahead of his title loss at WrestleMania 35. But what many fans may not know is that he was instructed to stop talking about the environment. Speaking to My San Antonio, Bryan revealed that WWE asked him to stop talking about the environment, as they saw it as a political issue, while Bryan argued back that it's a science issue instead, but the decision was made to cut the verbiage. He said, "When I was doing the environmental thing, they actually told me to stop talking about the environment, because they told me it was a political issue and we don't want to deal with politics. I said, it's not a political issue, it's a scientific issue, and the sciences pretty much prove it. So rather than looking at it from a right or left point of view, let's look at it as, hey, improving the environment is a bulletproof idea to improve all of our children's lives. And I think that's also something that people can get behind too. But how you do that in a wrestling format, I have no idea." Though he may no longer be a heel, Bryan is still very vocal about the environment, but doesn't let that come through on the microphone in WWE. It seems like another example of WWE trying to keep their nose out of politics, even if the science proves that this isn't quite the political issue they believe it to be. And finally today, we're recapping from the Wednesday Night Wars, as both shows once again fought for ratings. In a somber, albeit hilarious moment, the NXT universe paid tribute to the passing of Mr. Peanut, as the beloved mascot sacrificed his own life to save others at the age of 104. In the ring, the grizzled young veterans defeated the Undisputed Era in the Dusty Classic semifinals, while Toni Storm defeated Io Shirai by disqualification thanks to an attack by Bianca Belair. Finn Balor picked up the win over Joaquin Wilde, while Shayna Baszler, still furious about being eliminated from last week's Battle Royal by up-and-comer Shotzi Blackheart, got her revenge with a win over the green-haired grappler. After Pete Dunne and Matt Riddle earned their spot in the Dusty Classic finals with a win over Imperium, it was time for the main event, as Keith Lee defeated Roderick Strong to become the new NXT North American Champion. This clearly wasn't a good night for the Undisputed Era, as they lost both one of their titles and the chance to become two-time Dusty Classic winners, and it'll be interesting to see what happens next week for the group. NXT wasn't the only show that saw title changes though, as this week's AEW Dynamite saw Kenny Omega and Adam Page defeat the SCU for AEW Tag Team Gold. In singles action, Britt Baker defeated Priscilla Kelly before berating Tony Schiavone post-match, while the Inner Circle got an impressive victory over the Jurassic Express. MJF got the upper hand this week with a victory over Joey Janela, and though Cody Rhodes can't lay a hand on his cocky former protege, the Young Bucks did lay a foot on him, dropping MJF with a super kick to end the segment. And in the main event, Jon Moxley and Pac battled for a shot at the AEW Championship, though it was ultimately Moxley who won the contest. With this win, the former WWE Champion will have another shot at Jericho, this time at AEW Revolution, and fans will be able to check that match out on March 1st this year.